Welcome. Thank you for doing that for me. It's always really nice to see, or someone else in London, where you're all coming from. And it's also a nice demonstration for you to also see the international attraction that we get for our LLM and for CCLS. The students that I've got here today are also from international as well. They've come from other countries but are based here now, which is fab. But I'll let them introduce themselves in a minute. So I'll start with just the introductions and just explain how this webinar works. So my name is Charlotte Burton. I'm the marketing manager for the Centre for Commercial Law Studies here at Queen Mary. And today's session is part of our Discovery series, which is a series of webinars that we host throughout the academic year to give you as prospective students an opportunity to meet staff, students, as we've got here, academics, and just have any questions that you have answered. And this is a really popular webinar in the series because it's the opportunity for some of our students to give you a perspective of what it's actually like studying with us in Queen Mary. So it's not us telling you what it's like, they actually tell you from a real life experience that they're studying at the moment of how it is. So really great opportunity here today. The Student View webinar that we've got here is an opportunity for you to ask questions. I've got some that I will kind of kick it off with the guys here, and then feel free to use the Q&A or the chat function that we've got here to ask questions as we go along. We have an hour. If we run out of questions, we will finish a bit earlier, give you some of your time back. If not, we will carry on going until we hit the 1 p.m. in the UK mark here, where we'll finish up. So we won't go over your time. So without further ado, I will let the guys introduce themselves. So I'm going to go around my screen as I've got it here. So Miguel, would you like to introduce yourself and just tell us who you are, where you're from, and what program you're studying?
Yes, so I am Miguel. I come from Mexico City. I am doing the MSc on, the Master of Science program, rather than the LLM, on management of intellectual property.
Fabulous, thank you. Nidhi, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Nida. I'm from Turkey, and I'm doing Commercial and Corporate Law LLM at the CCLS, and I'm the course rep for my program as well. And I'd like to say that I was a qualified lawyer in Turkey. So if you have any questions regarding being qualified in your home jurisdictions and to be qualified in London in the UK as well, I'd be happy to help you out.
Fabulous, thank you, Nida. And Shruti, let's go next.
Hi everyone, I'm Shruti Gupta. I'm from India. So I've done my bachelor's in business administration with law. And after that, I've practiced in India for some time. And now I'm doing my master's here at Queen Mary University. I'm doing in comparative international dispute resolution. And I'm the course rep for my cohort. So yeah, that's it.
Fabulous, nice to have the course reps. Keeps you nice and busy, I'm sure, as well. So let's start off with, initially, obviously you're thinking about studying postgraduate law. What made you choose Queen Mary? Miguel, would you like to go first?
Yes, absolutely. Well, basically, if you want to do intellectual property here in the UK, Queen Mary is the place to come. I am not kidding. I did my research. I tried everything. There's nothing better than Queen Mary. Queen Mary has a really big archive in the library at IELTS library. It's fantastic. It's probably the second largest in Europe, battling with Max Planck in Germany, but it's fantastic. And Malcolm, the librarian, is a lovely person. He's the best. So you've got all the certificates. If you want to do intellectual property here, Queen Mary can get you qualified to become a trademark or patent attorney. For intellectual property, you don't need to be you don't need a background in law. Myself, I am still a qualified lawyer back in Mexico, but you need to get requalified to practice here in the UK. You don't need that if you come from a technical background like chemistry, engineering, physics. You can get into IP and do patents, for example. If you come from a marketing background, I have classmates you can get into trademarks. So you don't need a law background necessarily to do IP. Here in Queen Mary, they have 3 programs that can get you qualified. One is the MSc, which for international students is probably the best option because you also get a student visa and you can stay here. But if you are already in London, you can get the certificate in IP or the certificate in trademarks. Those are shorter programs, so you don't get the student visa from a government perspective, but those can get you qualified to practice here in the UK, either as trademark or patent attorney. So basically, Queen Mary is the only institution that offers these programs in the UK. So yes, if you want to do IP, Queen Mary.
Thanks, Miguel. That's great. I'm sure there's IP people on here because there's always a popular program that we hear about. Nida, what about you? Your situation's slightly different, so please explain.
So let me give me a short brief of my background. So I moved to London for about 3 years ago with my husband, and I decided to an LLM because I wanted to be a qualified lawyer here as well, but I wanted to learn further about the law in the UK or international law. The reason I chose Queen Mary was, honestly, I had some friends from Queen Mary from maybe about 5 or 10 years ago, and they've done their LLM in commercial law and arbitration, the dispute resolution, let's say, and the IP law. So I heard so many good things about Queen Mary. But the other reason that I chose Queen Mary was because I know that Queen Mary has the widest variety of modules, like even the so niche subjects, you can find everything you want on the handbook or module books, let's say. So one of the reasons that I chose Queen Mary was the module options that we have here.
Fabulous. I always look through them and quite fancy doing some myself, and I'm not a lawyer at all. I know nothing about law, but those modules look really interesting. Shruti, what about you?
So for me, coming to Queen Mary was a very firm decision because I'm doing my specialization in arbitration, and Queen Mary has one of the oldest school of arbitration in the world, and they offer faculty who are like the father of it, and we meet people who actually have developed arbitration as a subject. So that was it for me. That was like, okay, this is what I want. And I've been practicing in arbitration in India before, so I was like, this is it, I want to learn from the best, and it was Queen Mary.
Fabulous.
Can I say something else? I just remember.
Yeah, go for it.
Maybe we are going to mention of that, but I think one of the best points of Queen Mary is Q Legal, the CCLS. It's the best program that we have so far.
We can talk about Q Legal. So you're taking part in Q Legal?
Yeah, I did last year. I'm a part-time student, so this is my second year here. But like most of the students at Queen Mary, they will have a chance to join the Q Legal team, and it's a pro bono program that you can experience to be lawyer in London with some startups or the other clients. My project was a startup. Since I was into startup law and GDPR, I had the chance to prepare a GDPR, a privacy policy for a startup. So I gained an experience in London as well. So it's a good point about Queen Mary as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something we always try and talk about because it's a great experience for people to gain experience as well, particularly if they're coming straight from undergraduate as well to get that. Miguel, did you take part in Q Legal as well?
I did not because, until a week or so, I was working part-time in Mexico. I was working remotely, so I couldn't take part. But yes, many of my friends are in Q Legal. And yes, they all talk wonders, just as Nida.
Yeah, it's and actually someone's asked a question about employment opportunities, and do you guys know much about there's like a post-study visa, isn't there, so you can work after? Shruti, do you know much about that?
So in our country, like in India, if I am taking student visa for UK, I get 2 years post-study work visa after my LLM. So that is how it is. And also like during our LLM, I think people are doing paralegal works, and after Queen Mary, know so many alumni that within 6 months after their LLM, they're able to get a good job, and where we want to work actually. So I think that's the part of the Queen Mary, like we have such a wide alumni network that we can connect with them, and we can get employed. So I think that's there.
Great.
Also, yeah, there's a like as they mentioned Q Legal, there's also a pro bono society. So they have partnered with like big law firms who have pro bono clinics, and you get to work with them, like the partners and associates. I work with dentists, so it was a really good experience, and you get to have that hands-on experience that you don't have from your country, and you work with them. So it's a really good experience, and then you get to like it's not that even stressful, because you just have to go once a week, and then you can just stay there whole day and learn. So that's also an experience for you to take care.
If any of you guys use the careers service at all, I know there's a careers team.
Yeah,
I have extensively.
Yeah, and has that been helpful? Because I know they host events and stuff, don't they, to kind of connect people up?
They host events all the time, and they also help you review your CV, for example, to format it according to UK standards and expectations. They help you practice some interviews. They give you resources. They hold career events. They invite representatives from law firms and companies to come talk to you and tell you what it is when you try and apply to the firms and follow their own processes. It's a free service. You have to book in advance because they're very much in demand. But other than that, they do a very good job, and they're super friendly.
And hopefully that helps answer the question about employment opportunities and how we support as well. I know lots of students go on and do get roles after studying with us using that post-study work visa opportunity. Nida?
Yeah, also the other thing, we have also the mentorship program. I have some friends from that program that after having a close relationship with their mentors, they could find a job as well. So it's another point about the employment chances.
Sorry, I just would like to add what Miguel said. So in careers services, we have two types. One is the journal one, and then we have specific for law as well. Like there's solicitors and practitioners who actually give insight to your CV, or if you want to discuss something about your career advice. So that's also there. You can book a one-to-one appointment. So it's like, however you want it. So that's also there.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys. I'm glad that you've used the service as well, which is great. So we've got some questions coming in. One of them, which is an unusual one, which isn't one that I've heard before, so you guys can give your opinion on this. So someone's said that there's quite a few reviews from students in Google reviews about feeling unsafe. I have a feeling this might be to do with the Mile End campus compared to where we are. So just for a bit of background for you, Bianca, the postgraduate law building, the CCLS, is based in Holborn, which is quite different to the Mile End campus where the main Queen Mary campus is. So we actually have our own separate building in Holborn, in Lincoln's Inn Fields, which is among all the legal firms. So it is quite different. So I would imagine the query about safety is probably to do with that. It's quite a different area, whereas we're in central London, which is nice and busy all the time. We're a very short walk from the West End and Covent Garden, and it's I feel quite safe, but I'm a Londoner. You guys, how do you feel about this? Have you ever worried about safety at all?
I have classes in Mile End as well. Like I have 6 to 9 lecture as well. So, and even my friends do. So I don't think there's a question about safety, because the campus is 24/7 accessible and there's security all around. And even the areas where the campus is very busy. So I don't think there's a question about security. And the Holborn campus is just right next to the tube station. So that I don't think if you have classes in CCLS, you don't have to feel unsafe about it.
Thank you. That's helpful. I think it's also worth, I was actually in Dubai last week speaking to students, and a lot of them were asking about safety in London. And I think you have to always remember that London is a city like any city, and there's probably areas that you would choose not to go in any city. And it's the same in London. So it's just being kind of sensible about where you are. But I like to think I haven't felt unsafe myself, and I've worked for Queen Mary for nearly 2 years. So Miguel, what about you? And Nida, have you got any thoughts on that?
As a Latin American, for me, London is a walk in the park. It's fantastic. It's super safe. I see all my friends, female friends, take the tube. They might be wearing a short dress or something. No one has had any issues. No one has been mugged. No one has been pickpocketed. I mean, of course, as Charlotte says, you have to be careful. It's a big city. It's London, after all. But yes, I mean, after Mexico City, yeah, they walk in the park. Even when we go to the library, for example, I go to IELTS all the time. I'm used to just leaving my laptop and all my things there. No one has ever had any issues. I can leave it there, go to Pret a Manger, go get a coffee, take 40 minutes, come back, everything is there. I mean, we are amongst law students. It's a safe environment, but again, I haven't had any issues.
Good. Nice to hear. Nida, I hope your experience is quite similar.
Yeah, it's been 3 years since I'm here, and I haven't had any issues. So as long as you are careful, it will be okay for sure.
Thank you. Thank you for the reassurance, and I hope that's helped, Bianca, with your question. So someone's asked about employment criteria for law firms with training contracts. I personally don't know anything about that. I don't know if you guys know much about training contracts, the requirements. Feel free if you don't worry. I will find someone else that can help.
I haven't, I mean, I don't have yet a contract myself, because I was practicing for 14 years back in Mexico before coming here. So my situation is a little bit different. From what I can gather, there are at least 5 routes to get into, to get qualified here in the UK. I know of 4. One is a solicitor, which is like a commercial lawyer. One is a barrister, who is the person who is litigating. For me, you have patent attorney and trademark attorney, and those are different from the solicitor or barrister route. You have different paths to follow. And again, I've heard of a 5th one, but I'm not exactly sure. So for each position, you will have something different. If you want a full qualified position and you want like a training contract here in the UK, you usually have to apply with 2 years in advance. So what happens is that by December last year, they were recruiting for 2025 summer. So what usually happens is that law students start applying when they're in law school. They take 2 years to finish. By the time they finish law school, they already have a training contract. If you're coming to do an LLM, that means that you should start applying right away. Maybe you wouldn't be too attractive to those potential employers because you have no experience and no education here in the UK. But you need to take a while to do that, and then you will have a gap period for waiting, and then move towards a training contract. If you don't want to do that, what you would need to achieve is some sort of summer internship or something like that. Maybe you can get that, or as Nida was saying, if you get really close to a mentor, or you have some other connections, you might get into other positions. Otherwise, that 2-year gap is pretty much mandatory for everyone.
Thank you, Miguel. That's really helpful. And there's quite a few questions I've seen coming in where people are asking about availability of employment opportunities once you finish studying and how that works. I'm not an expert in this area, but I would say that I know that it is quite competitive to get roles in the law firms. But as we were saying before about the careers team and the opportunities that we put there for you is an opportunity for you to network as much as you can, so that hopefully there's a chance of something coming through if you make an impact with people that you're networking with to try and secure something afterwards. And the post-study work visa allows, it's 2 years, isn't it, Shruti? Yeah, that you can work in the UK, which is fantastic. A really great opportunity for international students coming in, that you can work with us for 2 years, which is great. So hopefully that will cover a kind of a broad part of that as to how it works, because these guys are still studying with us, so they're not even at that point yet. However, we do have, which I'll put a link in the chat, is a place on our website which lists all our alumni, and it has alumni for broken down by different courses as well. So I can see there's a question about human rights as an LLM. There will be examples of our members of our alumni from the human rights course, for example, and what they've gone on to do, which will be really helpful for you, so you can see, for example, what the opportunities could be, and that helps with that. So hopefully that will tick a few boxes there. So we've got a question which they said is for Nida because she mentioned the modules, but I think everyone can help with this. So how did you go about selecting your modules, I suppose? Like what did you what influenced your choices? Nida, as you mentioned it, with the huge array, how did you choose what you were going to take?
So actually, for the first half of my LLM, I stayed broad. Like since I'm doing commercial law, I decided to have some commercial law modules, company law modules, and since the Queen Mary is is famous about their dispute resolution modules, I took arbitration modules as well. But after my first year, I realized that I was a startup lawyer, I was an IT lawyer, so I wanted to turn back to IT part because it was my passion. So for the second half, I'm now having some IT modules, AI modules, artificial intelligence. So my only suggestion would be, recommendation would be that don't stay very broad, because if you know everything, I don't think it would help you a lot. It's better to specialize in something that you can prove your prospectus employers. So I think do that. I'm not sure, since I'm still waiting for my results. I'm not sure about that, but my choice would be staying niche.
Okay, cool. Shruti, what about you? How did that work for you?
For me, like we don't have very wide options. So we have like 15, 20 modules divided into different semesters, like semester 1, 2, and 3. Semester 1 and 2 are broad, but semester 3 is like very short. So we have to select our modules accordingly. And then we have total of 180 credits. Like for all of us, we have to choose total of 180 credits, and we have to divide it in 3 semesters. So in my LLM, like for comparative international dispute resolution, we have dissertation as an optional subject. So that is also there. And then also in Queen Mary, you get an option to audit the modules apart from 180 credits. So that is also a great option. For me, I chose the modules which I wanted. I was very clear about what I wanted. So I took arbitration, I took maritime, and then I took investment arbitration. So I did not, as Nida said, like be very niche. So it was very niche for me. I just focused on 3 subjects, and that is what I have for whole of my year. But you get to choose modules from all the LLMs. Like there's no restriction, but there's some modules which are capped for only specific specialization. So, they can choose from other specialization as well. So my classmates have modules from corporate, commercial, and even IP, or, they've taken mergers or human rights. So it really depends upon your interest. But then again, don't, like if you're doing a specialization, stick towards it, not broaden your horizon too much so that you don't even know where you're going. So that's what my advice is.
Fabulous. And Miguel, how does it work with the MSc? Is it slightly different?
No, completely different. We don't get to choose any modules
Right.
because my program is regulated by the IP Regulation Board, IP Reg. Actually, I'm also a course representative for the MSc. We got to sit down with the IP Regulation Board on Monday because they wanted to know from the students how we felt the academic content was going. So because it's a regulated course and you end up part qualified to work in the UK by completing the program, you get your IP modules, you get trademarks, lots of patents, you even get patents in Japan, in the EU, UK, so it's a varied all your modules are IP related to trademarks, designs, copyright, patents, but you don't get to choose them. So they give you a timetable and you just follow it. And if you complete everything the exams that you take at Queen Mary get you part qualified, ready to work here in the UK. That's the difference between doing an LLM on intellectual property, which is non-regulated, and you can move your modules like Nida and Shruti were telling you, and the MSc, which is a very rigid program, but gets you part qualified to become patent or trademark attorney.
Fabulous, thank you. It's always helpful because there's so many programs I get mixed up half the time, so that's super helpful. So we've got some questions on one that I can answer very quickly, so we'll get this one done. So Gloria asked about IELTS scores, so having a 6.5 in an IELTS score, and we require a 7. I completely understand that you've dreamed of coming to Queen Mary, which is great, and we love that. We do pre-sessional English, so if you don't meet the IELTS requirements that we ask for, we do offer pre-sessional English courses that you can do prior to starting with us over the summer. I will pop a link in the chat about that, and then you can have a look and see if that's something that you'd be interested in. By doing that, that means that you can come through and just make sure it tops up for your IELTS score there. So I'll pop a link in the chat for that in just a moment. There was another one that I can also answer quite easily because these guys are London based. So this is something about Paris. So we have Paris LLM programs, which is great. I'm really glad to see someone is looking at Paris. The academic year is the same. So exactly the same as what you would do in London. So you have your exams in January and May if you're starting in September. So exactly the same. You're just doing it in Paris, which is a nice change to being in London as well. So there's that one ticked off for you. So what have we got that the guys here can answer with? So people are asking about accommodation, which always comes up. Nida, you're in a unique situation, so I won't worry about asking you about this. Miguel, Shruti, if you don't mind me asking, how did you manage accommodation when you came to London? Shruti, would you like to go?
So I've opted for university accommodation.
Yeah.
So, like when I got my offer letter, so I was able to apply for university accommodation. I believe like it was a good decision at a point because there's so many Queen Mary students in different postgrad courses, even as like flatmates from MSc or LLM or even different jurisdictions. So that's a great mix. But I think like you have a better accommodation option if you're have your campus in Holborn. You can save a lot of time traveling, that which I did not know before opting out for my accommodation. So you can choose more accommodations which are there available. But then again, university accommodation is also good. You have so many events, and they organize so many different events as per your cultures as well, so you get to experience that and meet so many people. And then you have a lot of events which is in the building just for your building, and that's also great. So yeah, I live in a university accommodation, so yeah.
Brilliant. That's what someone's asked about, which is great. Miguel, what about you?
Yeah, it's difficult. Accommodation here in London is a problem. As an international student, and by international I mean non-European, non-EU, non-UK, non-Swiss. That means that you only get two choices to get accommodation. That's student accommodation or hotels. Those are the only two available resources for you. Government standards don't allow you to rent a flat or something separate on your own. If you want to rent, you have to arrive to the UK first, get your BRP, then get a bank account, which takes about 2 months, well, depending on your bank and all other things. And after that, you can start renting your own flat. But then you get into the London market, which is always difficult. So it's very complicated. In my experience, I currently live in student accommodation, but I got my own flat within student accommodation. I don't like it. I don't like it because it's non-Queen Mary. It's a separate provider. It's called IQ, and I don't like it. It's very dirty. My neighbors, which are students, are noisy and loud, and I don't like it. But as soon as I can get off my contract, I will. Something that you have to take into consideration is that here in the UK, most let agreements, when you're renting a flat or accommodation, you cannot get out of it. You can even go to court to make your landlord do something about it, but you cannot get out of it. So if it's 1 year mandatory, you have to stay there, and there's there's mostly no chance of moving out until you finish your term. So just keep it in mind when you're researching locations.
Sorry, that's different for university accommodation. So if we want to move out, we can do that. So we have different clauses on a contract in Queen Mary accommodation. So that's not a problem if you take a university accommodation, you want to switch later.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry you've had that experience, Miguel. I know that housing in London is tricky at the moment, and that's why we do this webinar, so you have a reality from the student's perspective. I'm glad, Shruti, you're getting a good experience in the uni accommodation. If
Shruti is vouching for Queen Mary, I recommend everyone checking them out, because it depends a lot on the provider.
I've heard private accommodations are better, like so I think it's not personal experience mostly, how you have it. So yeah.
Do you research, people? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And someone's actually asked about if accommodation is available if you're coming with family, and I'm sure that in the Queen Mary accommodation there is some options. So if you're coming with family, so there's accommodation for couples, and I think there's limited availability family as well. So there are options there. I'm sure, and Shruti, correct me if I'm wrong, once you receive your offer and you accept it, then you can apply for accommodation from there. Is that correct?
Yes.
You did it. Great.
And then you have to wait. So accommodations allotments start from May, so that they have a good number of applications when they're allotting. So then you get a deadline, you have to pay your deposit, and the process goes on. So it's like you'll get 10-15 options in Queen Mary accommodation, and then you can choose as per your budget and the preference what kind of room you want. So like I'm staying in an suite premium room, so it really depends what kind of room you're looking for. Like he's staying in a studio apartment, so you get all kind of options, and then that's how allotment is.
Fabulous, thank you. And someone's also asked about temporary guests. Are there any clauses in that? We're going very into accommodation. Do you know much about guests, Shruti, if you're allowed to have people come and stay?
Yeah, in Queen Mary accommodations, for my accommodation, I live in a Spy Point. So we have a policy to have a guest, but then we need to make sure our guest is with us during the whole stay, and our flatmates are okay with the guests, so that they are not comfortable as well. But yeah, we can have guests like for overnight stay and as well as for the visits as well. So there's no issue in that.
Fabulous, thank you. I think we've ticked every box with accommodation there, so well done, guys. Thank you for that. Right, so there's a few other ones. So people are asking about, we've already kind of touched on, so about careers and networking events. The careers team don't do career fairs, do they? It's more just events for you to meet firms. Is that correct?
There was a university careers fair, but that was more like focused on part-time jobs.
Sure.
Like you all can register and go, and if you want to do part-time work, you can just go and explore options. It's like a open for whole Queen Mary students, not just for only postgrads or law students. It was for everyone. And then I think they do some events for LLM specializations, like, just the courses. It's like that. It's not like for the whole LLM or the whole postgrad. So yeah.
Yeah. And on that, actually, in terms of part-time work, I know that visa options allow students to be able to work 20 hours a week, I think it is. So I know some students do work part-time, and I think there's a question about working while you're here. And we advise not to do more than the 20 hours, obviously for visa regulations. And but if you don't require a visa, we always say just try and prioritize your study, but obviously different things come up. So or if you're with you're like Nida and you've got part-time option, you have a bit more time available for that. Right, what else have we got? So someone's asked about mooting. I know that there's a mooting society. Does any of the LLM students get involved in that? Do we know?
So
yeah,
maybe Shruti knows better than me. Do you know about Wismut?
Yes.
Okay. It's not good.
Go ahead.
No, you are doing arbitration, so you should explain it.
I'll add on whatever you say, I'll add on. Come on.
Nida, you go, and then Shruti will follow.
Okay, one of my friends joined the WeSmooth team last year. So I think the most famous smoothing organization in terms of arbitration is WeSmooth, and Queen Mary is like one of the parts of it. So I think Sophia asked this question. If she is interested in arbitration, she can have a look at it. WeSmooth, basically. I can write to chat down as well.
Shruti, have you got anything to add on that?
So, like as you said, we have a mooting society. So when they, Queen Mary participates in different moots, and it's sometimes sponsored or partly sponsored by the university itself. So you have to put your expression of interest in the specific mood, and then they are given training and coaching. So apart from like this moot is for arbitration, but then there's always a caveat about qualification, because I was not able to participate because I was qualified lawyer in India. So there's always a conflict of interest in that manner, but you need to check your qualification, and then it's a very rigorous selection process. So that's also there. And Queen Mary, always wants to teach and coach students as well. So mooting is a very good option in Queen Mary. They always promote it, and you can participate. With LLM, they always give you options to participate in different moods. Even there's a mood for IP. There was a mood for constitutional right, if I'm not wrong. So there are different kinds of mood.
Fab. And have you taken part in any of it, Shruti?
I'm not allowed to, so I'm a qualified lawyer.
There we go. Whenever I see pictures of it, it always looks really interesting. So
it is amazing. Like the coaching part and the when you go and participate, it's just another experience altogether. So I would have loved to do a Vismut, but yeah.
And I can see someone's actually asked about mediation negotiation competitions. I don't think that is there any of that? I don't think there is. Woo, there we go. I've learned something new. So what else is there?
We had a negotiation competition in collaboration with Clifford and Chance. So the ADF Society here organized a negotiation competition just for the Queen Mary students. So they were very different problems and different levels. So yeah, it is there. There was mediation competition. Queen Mary sends teams to mediation competitions as well. So yeah.
Cool. That sounds great. I hope we win. Always wanting us just to be competitive. So this is one kind of taking us a bit back to the day-to-day. So you guys are on different programs. Nida, you're obviously on part-time, so that'll be slightly different. But someone's asked, like, how many hours of lectures do you have on average in a week? Shruti, how does it work for you?
So when we select our modules, okay, so we are also given the module timetables, like this is the lecture timing, or this is the day it will be. So we have to make sure that our lectures are not clashing with each other, the modules we are selecting. So that's on us. For me, my modules have always been on one day. So I have lectures from all my lectures on Monday or on Friday. So it's just one day and I'm free for the whole week. So it's like that.
So it depends on your module choices, basically, I imagine.
Definitely. So if you have 30 credits module, so that will go on for the whole semester. If you have a 15 credit module, it will just go for 5 weeks. So you'll have a lecture for 5 weeks, and then there's a reading week break. After that, there's another part of that semester. So it really depends on your module choices. And then we have SGTs for the module. Like there's a small group teaching method which is followed in modules where students more than 30. So apart from our normal lecture, like if I have taken arbitration, for example, we are like 70 students enrolled in that subject. So we have a small group teaching as well, apart from the lecture, where we get to, discuss questions and prepare for exam. And the tutors who are already Queen Mary alumni, they come and teach us and tell us how to take a practical approach towards the theoretical part we have started in our lecture. So that's how it goes. It really depends on the modules then again.
Fab. And Miguel, how does it work for you? I know lectures can go, they're normally 9 to 5, but sometimes some start at 5 o'clock. I know everyone's nodding like, oh no, yes. Miguel, how does your day usually look?
It varies a lot. Again, because we have set modules, you get your schedule in advance.
Mhm.
But the worst days have been 6 hours of actual lecture,
Mhm.
sitting down in the lecture hall, and but we only have that once a week. For example, right now I'm only taking 2 modules on Mondays and another one on Friday. So 2 3-hour modules on Monday, that is 6 hours, 1 3-hour on Friday, that's it. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is free, and by free it means you have to sit down and read a lot. But that's it. Last week was completely different because we had a guest lecture. Well, not guest lecture, but we had a lecturer coming from the United States to teach us about US IP, and those were included on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So on one occasion, we actually had 8 hours just that one day because we had to accommodate the whole subject in one week. So it was a little bit intensive. But it, for the most part, is 2 days, 6 hours one day, 3 hours another.
Great, thank you. That's helpful. So it varies across the board, I think. Nida, obviously you're part-time, so it's quite different. But how do you find the teaching? Like, are the lectures engaging? Like, how do you find that side of things?
So for the first part of my LLM, I could say that since I took commercial law modules, it was very crowded, like at least 100 students. So for this part,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that it was very interactive, although I learned a lot. But for the second part, for instance, until last week, I had a module on AI and we were only like 10 students. So it was very engaging. It was the best model that I've had in Queen Mary. I suggest to everyone, if you are interested in AI, you can send me a message, then I can tell you the professor's name and the module name as well. So I think the tutorials and like sometimes, even though there's no tutorial, the professors are offering more tutorials to help us, to teach us the topics, and they are always replying our emails whenever we don't understand something and we didn't have a chance to ask during the modules. If you email them, they are offering having a quick call on Teams or Zoom, or during their office hours, they are inviting to their offices. So I think they are doing their best to teach us, although I don't think that at the LLM level, they don't have to do that because we should be learning. They shouldn't be teaching us, but they are still doing their best to help us.
That's nice to hear. A lecturer told me recently that you think of it as the lecture is the time that they tell you the information, and then you go away and read about it, and then your tutorial's the time to fill in those gaps where you're lacking in understanding or you're finding something a bit tough. Does that sound about right? We've got some nodding. That's great. Sounds good. So we've got 15 minutes. We've got a few more in here. So one of them that I can answer very quickly. So someone's asked about they've applied and they haven't heard it back yet. Is there a time limit? Because it's taking a bit of time to hear back. We usually say between 4 to 6 weeks, you should hear back from the admissions team. Depending on the time of year, completely depends on whether you will hear back as quickly or not. You might hear back quicker than that, or you might hear back a bit longer, depending on the time of year, because admissions team are going through processing, and as the further along in the year it gets, the busier they get. So please just hold tight. You will hear back from the team. If not, just drop them an email and hopefully someone will be able to have a look for you to see how it's getting on. But don't worry, we will, if you've applied, we will know it's there. It just might take a bit longer to get back to you. So, but don't worry. This one is a very strange one. So someone's asked about how competitive the LLM program is, which when I first read it, I thought that meant how competitive is it to get on, that's which I was going to say, as long as you have the entry requirements, you will get in, and we will happily have you with us at CCLS. But then they've said, are people really mean to each other? And I can't say I've ever heard anything like that with our students. And if people are out to get each other. So please tell me that's not the case.
It's not competitive like the way they're putting it, but yeah, you get to know so many jurisdictions, and that's how it is competitive. You bring your intellectual understanding to the table, and that's the healthy competition, I put it, that way. But not, like in terms of marks or who's asking more questions. I don't think that's there.
Well, that's good to know. How's the environment been for you, Miguel?
I did a previous LLM back in New York a few years ago, and it was very competitive because we were graded on a curve. So
Sure.
the best student had the most marks, and then they just graded on a curve. That is not the case here in Queen Mary. So people are not competing with each other. They are not holding back. Quite the opposite. I have some study groups with some friends. I have met wonderful people. Think about the people that you meet in these programs are like-minded to you, because there are people who also are leaving their countries to come to London and study just like you. They have similar interests in the same subjects that you do. They chose London for a reason. They're choosing Queen Mary for a reason. They're choosing the same program you are for a reason. So you get to know people that are similar to you, so you get to make good friends. You have good acquaintances. You network well. So yes, no, my experience is completely the opposite. People are super nice, and yeah, it's been a great experience.
I'm glad to hear. And that kind of links on to someone's asked actually about kind of what extracurricular activities there are, but that also links to in a different kind of style of thinking about it. What's it like socially at CCLS? Miguel's answered it a little bit, but Shruti, have you managed to integrate quite well with everyone and make friends? And you do?
I think CCLS, when we start like in September, there's so many events, so many in the welcome week, so many things going on. So you definitely get to even meet people outside your LLM. So I have friends who are doing corporate or IP or even human rights or criminal justice. So, that's the kind of palette Queen Mary gives you. They give you exposure to everything, just not academics, but extracurricular as well. Like we have networking events for our LLM, so that we all as like a cohort can meet each other and know each other. And I think that's the best part. You just don't have to focus on academics, but then you can focus on other activities as well. Like people participate in moods, and in moods it's not usually like people just from one LLM come in, until and unless it's a specialized mood. So you get to meet so many people, and there are so many societies. When you join them, there are events with that society as well, so you meet people from the university, not just from the postgrad. So I think Queen Mary offers it in every aspect of social life. It's there, something is there to take for you. So yeah.
Fabulous, thank you, that's really helpful. I've just noticed there was some coming in the chat as well that I'd not seen, so I'll quickly whiz over some of these. So the deadline for LLM application is September. So we do take applications even at the beginning of September. However, we would always recommend you apply as early as possible, just to ensure everything can be processed in time, because particularly if you're coming internationally, you need to think about visas as well, which takes time, and we want you all to start on time. All our teaching, as much as possible, is face-to-face now, so we want to see you with us in September. So yeah, get your application as early as possible would be the advice. In terms of scholarships, this always comes up. We do offer a range of scholarships available. I will put a link in the chat to show the scholarship database, which we have on our website, which shows all the scholarships available. And we do offer them for international students predominantly, actually. So there's opportunities there that you can apply for scholarships too.
So on basis of your application, like the CCLS offers postgrad merit scholarship as well for a certain amount. So I have been offered after my offer, so you also get those scholarships. So you apply when they send a merit-based email that you can apply, and then you have to write an SOP for it. So there are so many options they can explore, and even outside CCLS, there are many, government scholarships and private organizations giving scholarships. So you can research more about it.
Fabulous, thank you. And we do look at those scholarship applications that Shruti has mentioned all the time. I'm actually this afternoon reviewing scholarships applications exactly for that, those merit-based scholarships. So we will contact you to say that you've been selected to apply for a scholarship, and then we have a committee that goes through and reviews those, of which I'm part of. No bribes necessary. We'll go and review those. So that's there. Someone's asked about the size of the cohort. I think there's something about batch size for certain LLMs. As Nida mentioned, for the commercial and corporate and particular programs, certain modules do get very busy, don't they, because they're so popular. But I don't really know what the actual size would be. Nida, what's your experience of that?
So actually, I answered already one of the questions about the class sizes. It depends on the model, actually. For instance, for mergers and acquisition, I think it's one of the most famous modules in Queen Mary. It was about 150 students, but as I said, for the AI module, we were only 10 students. But I can say that for commercial law, we are right now about 200 students. But although I am the course rep, I haven't had a chance to see of the students, so you won't be seeing the same 200 students in every module. It will depend on your module, so I wouldn't be worried about the class sizes. You will do the Queen Mary will do their best to help you.
Brilliant, thank you for that. Right, I'm going to stop taking any more questions on the chat because we've got loads here and we're nearly at the end, and I'm just going to do a finishing question to go around to each of you. Just to ask, if you had to give kind of one piece of advice to these prospective students thinking about coming and studying at Queen Mary, what would it be? Who wants to go first? I can see Shruti's thinking as well. Miguel, will you go?
I'll go first. Have a plan. And by plan, I mean do you want to stay in the UK or do you want to go back to your country? Either is fine, but have a plan. Mostly because you have to apply to so many things, like for traineeships with so much time in advance. And so if you don't have an idea of what you want to do when you finish your LLM, your program, everything starts just getting behind and it's very difficult. So at least know what you want to do, and with your program. Things might change and evolve and you might get other opportunities along the way, but just have a plan, and it's easier just to accommodate some little changes down the line rather than just trying to create from scratch once you're here in London. That would be my #1 advice. Other than that, yeah, it should go fine.
Lovely, thanks Miguel. Nida, has that inspired you at all for any advice?
Yeah, actually he helped me as well. Okay, I will listen to. But as I said, my recommendation would be don't choose something that you don't like because like everyone does so. Like, do think of your interest, do find your area of interest, then decide on the programs that you want to do or the modules you want to choose. Otherwise you won't do good and you won't get any help with it, and like it will be a torture to yourself. So like have a look at the think about your interests, then decide on a path. It would be because you will be paying a lot for this LLM, so it's better if you get benefit of it.
Absolutely, that's really good advice. Shruti, last one.
I think like the whole process of applying and then coming here sometimes can be very overwhelming, and you're not able to process it. But then I think it's okay to feel okay, so you don't have to get disheartened that you're not able to do this or someone else doing so much more than you. It's okay, it's a process, and we take things and process at a very different pace as humans. Okay, so yeah, and don't hesitate to reach anyone out at Queen Mary. I think they have been so helpful to me, as even before I joined. I reached so many alumni, even the professors, even the team. I have written n number of emails to them. So I think they're very helpful. Don't hesitate. If you want to, I think we all will be happy to help. You can contact us, reach us out, or anyway. So just don't have questions in your mind and don't think that it is a stupid question. So just go and ask and be happy about it, get an opinion, because that might help you to make a decision. So yeah.
Fabulous, thank you. And that's so true that if you have any questions or anything that we haven't been able to answer this in this webinar now, please do send me an email. I'm going to drop my email in the chat now, so you can get in touch with me and I can find someone that can answer the question for you if we weren't able to here. But everyone is always really happy to help out as much as possible and answer questions. So thank you so much for your time today, the lovely panel that I've got here. Thank you very much. You've been super helpful. And I'm sure that the students here, prospective students here, will very much appreciate your thoughts. So thank you very much for your time. Just to add also, if you are, any of you that are joining online here today, if you're ever in London and you would like to come and have a look around the CCLS building and just to see what it's like, please feel free to drop me an email and I can arrange that for you and you can come and have a look and see what it's like. And I can, if I can, get a professor related to your program to have a chat with you as well. We're doing them fairly regularly and it's a really great opportunity for you to find out a bit more. So thank you very much for your time today. Thank you, brilliant panel. You've been fantastic. I will send a recording of this out if you've joined a bit late, and we'll be in touch soon. Best of luck for applications for September, and we hope to see some of you there in September. So
thank you for having us here. I think
you're very welcome. You've done me a favor. Thank you. Thanks, Miguel.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Shruti. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care.